I'm Sir Flowbojan Thunderhammer.
And I'm Teflon Frosthammer.
And I'm Cabbage Tidehammer.
And none of those dildos are going to be here. Hi, this is Baronade Vidalia.
This is Lord Quan Quarrel.
And this is WAP. That's Women, Amtgard, and People.
If Amtgard knighthood means anything, you can't knife a motherfucker and keep it.
And the thing that people need to understand essentially about arts and sciences events is that your scores don't matter.
Do you want a black phoenix or a white phoenix?
Jeez, language, man. We're on
right.
a freaking podcast, for fuck's sake.
With us today, we have Dame Fiddles the Fanciful and Squire Arco Briarbow. Say hi, everyone.
Hi. Hi.
All right, so typically we open up with how we got into Amtgard. Do you guys want to share with us that story?
Do you want to go first, Fiddles?
Sure. Well, I think I'm going to roll it back quite a bit. When I was in high school, I watched this movie called Role Models. And I know a lot of people, but I thought it was my first experience ever seeing LARP outside of like a convention, and I fell in love. And I was like, when I go to college, I am going to do this thing. And then when I was touring FSU before I started there, the first day I was on tour, I came across the green, and people were playing Dagger Here, and I ran up to them. I'm like, when do you meet? And I think they were like, every Wednesday at so-and-so time. I'm like, okay. And like the first week I was at college, I made this silly tabard, and I joined, and I was so excited. And then a year into playing, I met some members of a cross-gaming fighting company, Seraphim, and I became friends with quite a few of them. I petitioned their company, and they got me into Amtgard, and I've like pretty much transitioned completely into Amtgard ever since. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Nice. So, you just made me feel real old, Fiddles, because I saw a like pre-screening before Role Models ever came out my freshman year of college. They like brought it to UGA, and I was like, this is amazing. We didn't start LARPing then, but so I also have a connection to Role Models. Like actually met McLovin. He's tiny, like this tall on me. Like there's a picture somewhere. Anyway,
We'll have to find
so I got into Amtgard, kind of a really similar story, except entirely due to my partner. So my boyfriend then, now husband, Calculon, basically we graduated college, he got a job in Atlanta, moved to Atlanta, I stayed in Athens for grad school, and he was like, you know what, I'm bored, I need to start doing something, and somehow stumbled across a group of Dagger Here LARPers in Atlanta. He was like, this is amazing, we gotta do this, and he like dragged me along with him, pretty unwillingly, to be honest. And I can remember my like second park day in Dagger Here, I just got beat up. Oh man, It was awful. And I was like, I'm done, I quit, never doing it again. And Calculon was like, what if I buy you a bow? And I was like, okay, I'm back. And so I've been LARPing and arching pretty exclusively since then. And same thing, he got kind of recruited by the Seraphim at some DAG event, I can't even remember, and they were like, would you be interested in coming to Amtgard too? And I got pulled right along with him, and my first Amtgard event was Book of Heroes back in the day. So, which can be really funny sets of stories too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty new. I've only been playing for a little over 2 years. I just now, at this exact moment, learned that the Seraphim was a cross-gaming company. So, can I hear more about that?
Yeah, we cross-game with a few different... I think if there's like foam and fighting involved, we'll try to cross-game at it. But I think it's really fun because a lot of people in my fighting company take on leadership roles in Amtgard, And it's really nice to go to DAG events and not be really responsible for running anything, or and you can just kind of go out and battle game. Yeah, and I think having a fighting company that does cross game is a really great way to meet new people and to get new ideas and to understand different kinds of fighting styles. And even in terms of the arts and sciences, people in Dagger here, especially like at Ragnarok, the garb kits are amazing, especially like monster garb kits. And I get so inspired by people's role play and how they design their characters, and then I bring that into Amtgard. And I think with Amtgard, we've definitely brought applique and different things into Dagger here. So I really support cross gaming and just like kind of the cultural mixing pot in a way that it brings.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what is I have no idea about Dagger here. I've literally never played. So what is the like crafting culture and garb culture in DAG?
A bunch of people paint themselves green. There's
a lot more like character, like it's less like, okay, I'm playing this character for this one thing. Like, it's like, no, they're like, I am an orc and this is what I do and I have horns. It's pretty amazing sometimes. Yeah. I don't know, it's kind of different. I feel like Amtgard, there's a lot of focus on kind of doing your own things for your own kit, and picking up those skills for yourself to do it. There's some, spending some money with other artisans to do things for you, but I feel like a lot more of what you see is I made this tabard for myself and it's awesome and that's my kit. Whereas I see, at least locally to me, a lot of the Dagger here is a lot more like, there's this artisan, they're awesome, I saved up 3 years and bought this amazing tunic from them.
Or like not even that, like I bought this amazing tunic from this person, I got this hat from this person, I found it at this thrift store, and like it's all this building. Yeah. So.
I don't know, to me, I usually see a lot more elaborate garb and kits in Dagger here, which is really funny because when you're with Dagger here players, they're like, oh, Amtgarders, they're like way more flirby, they have magic and stuff, and then like I'm like, but you're like dressed as an orc, bro. I don't know.
I also discovered the Kinder community in Dagger, and I love them. I've been building some different Kinder kits and trying to bring that into Amtgard. Like there's different tribes of I don't know, it's very cool.
So I totally know what a Kinder is, but for the ignorant,
I don't know what
can
a
you
Kinder
explain to me what that is?
No. It's going back to D&D old school, but it's kind of like a hobbit, but they're more wanderers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, halflings with pointy ears. So there's this but in DAG there's like this Kinder group that goes to Ragnarok every year, and they've kind of like put their own unique spin to it on what their Kinders are, and they wear like rainbow skirts and bright lots of stripes and colors and the top knots on their heads and hoophacks. And in DAG they actually have fighting hoophacks, which is a spear on one side, and the other side they can like try to toss balls off the end of the stick thing.
That's cool.
It's really cool. So yeah, and so my Hobbit character I usually play as a scout in Amtgard, but I've been developing my Kinder kit as kind of a dark Kinder, and that's for my paladin character. So
okay. Nice. So I know you're one of the few people in the kingdom that's signing in as anti-paladin. Is that right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I think Flo is the other big one that I can think of.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of our older knights have done anti-paladin. So
yeah, but I meant like
these
right
are our
now.
These are our new children. our new bright white lights of the kingdom.
So the first time I met you, Fiddles, actually the first time I met either of you was in the the battle game with Medusa at
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't remember what event that was.
It was at Kazan's second nighting. It was the October coronation, fall coronation.
That's why I have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I couldn't be there that Saturday. It was my sister's birthday.
So I met Arco because she was just destroying the field with her bow as Medusa. And then I met Fiddles because she was on the opposing team and playing anti-paladin, I think. And it was my first time ever seeing an anti-paladin on the field. And it was also my first time coming from a super stick jockey park, seeing people role-playing on the field. So
Isn't it? It's a terror to behold, isn't it?
I was, first time seeing a bow on the field too. So I was in awe.
Wait, you've never seen Gillen with a bow?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's a terrifying thing.
So I was completely out of my element, learning new things, and I was super impressed with the both of you. So tell me a little bit about that experience. So what's your side of the story?
Arco,
Yeah. So, that one's really funny because I showed up on the field basically, and Clover was like, "Yo, I need a Medusa. Arco, you are it." Got into it. He was like, "Do you know what it's like? Do you know Medusa in the rule book?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "Okay, go read it. You're it." I was like, "Okay, cool." And I went and read it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't do this," because Medusa has 8 points of ancestral armor or something on everything. And I was like, I can't do that much counting. I never ever have worn armor on a field. And I can't do this. So I go to Clover and I'm like, "I can't do that, man." He was like, "Okay, how about this? You just get 8 sloughs, so you ignore 8 of anything." I was like, "Okay, I'll try that." I was so overwhelmed trying to be Medusa out there. I've had many people tell me that I was terrifying and that it was amazing.
Yeah, you were great.
They were super intimidated, and I was like, "Oh, dude," I was going, "Oh my god, I'm doing so bad." I have pretty bad imposter syndrome, it seems. But yeah, so I was like, "Oh my god, I can't count. I don't know how many. I guess I'm dead." And then I was supposed to also do something where I'd turn everybody around me into stone by shouting something, but I could never remember what I was supposed to do. And this is because I play Archer, and literally all you have to do is just say the thing you're shooting. It's really easy. I was like, I have so much more respect for all those warriors out there with all their armor they have to keep track of, and all these people who have to remember these incantations. I don't know what I'm doing. But it was a lot of fun. I do feel like I missed an opportunity after seeing Fiddles in her character. I was like, "Oh man, I should have been this old lady Medusa telling people to get off my lawn."
Yeah, that battle game was so fun. If I'm remembering it correctly, there were all these little islands around the Medusa Island.
Yes.
And there were these balls, little teeny balls on all of the islands, and I think you had to keep them on your team or something.
Yes.
And with my anti-paladin kind of dark character, Hinders naturally love shiny things and they love to collect things. And so I decided, oh, this island over here and all of these balls, these are mine. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I decided that there can't, so fighting skill and using your abilities, that's really powerful. But I remember that particular battle game, I decided that roleplay could be just as threatening.
Yes.
It was amazing.
It was perfect because I'd never seen role playing on the field. I'd never seen an anti-paladin, and I think it was my first time also seeing plate armor.
Oh no. Yeah.
And so I would come up to your island that you had claimed, and you would yell at me to stay away from your gold, and I would be like, "Oh, okay," and then back away.
I remember this. I totally remember. I turned around at one point because I was doing my death count, and Fiddles is like, "Get off my island! Yes. This is my gold!" And someone that I'm now guessing was probably you,
Yes.
Vidalia, like ran away in fear. It was absolutely amazing. And then I can remember a moment with Fiddles where she like stood over what was supposed to be my like bronze statue as Medusa. Like there's a statue that I was like, that is my bronze statue.
Mhm.
Get away from my statue. I'm not having anybody touching my statue.
Right.
And Fiddles is standing over top of it, and I think I shot her with something. I don't even remember. But Fiddles just goes, "Oh no!" It was amazing. And that's my favorite thing is when people actually like dramatically die when they die.
Mhm.
It's the best.
So the closest Radiant Valley, we're a bunch of stick jocks, and the closest we
Are
get.
we?
Yes, and the closest we get to role playing is we'll play Calvin Ball, and one of the things is you can reduce your death count if you like role play your death, and so that's the way we get all the like triads and stick jocks to dramatically like flail about and die.
I really like that. That is. I'm gonna take that. Part.
Yes. Do it. Force that role play.
Love it.
One of the things that Donnie will do, or Sir Darko rather, when we're on field is he'll like dramatically run and be like, "Don't hurt my friends," and like just flurb it up really.
But honestly, the best role play that we've seen from Radiant Valley was Subway
As Gregory.
tying
yeah.
Gregory to him. Oh, it was amazing. I have a full-size skeleton. His name's Gregory. And we were doing a zombie graveyard-esque
Dungeon, yeah.
dungeon that little Boop had made up for us. And I had brought Gregory out because he was like, I need skeletons, I need props to make it look graveyardy. I was like, here, you can borrow my skeleton for the day. And they're like, oh, there's a full size. Yes, I bridal carry him everywhere. It's very fun for me. So Subway saw him and he was like, Gregory is now on our team, and then had somebody use extra sashes to tie him to his arms and
So
legs.
he was like a big skeleton.
He went
walking
through
around.
with like a single sword because Gregory was a peasant, I guess.
Yeah, Gregory was a peasant skeleton.
That's amazing.
It was just that was the best roleplay that I think I've seen from Radiant Valley.
We're trying though.
We're gonna make them.
We're expanding our horizon.
It's because of the little babies. Little babies are gonna outnumber the stick jockets, and then we'll really have a flirb park. It'll be great.
There you go.
I love it when quote unquote stick jocks like super start to role play and get goofy. I think about like Puddin, HB Puddin, and I think Flo. They both when they Jarek, Jarek from Serpent. When they play goblins, it's the funniest thing in the whole
So good.
because they're these big guys and they like use these really high pitched voices. And they get their goofy on, and it's great.
Yeah, I really like it when people have the stick jocks be monsters, and then everyone just gets to kind of beat up on them. Like it's like the only chance we're gonna have to tear them up, and it's like the best thing ever. Like it's just so much fun.
It is a lot of fun. We had Patches play an ancestral warrior kind of character who was defending this gem that we had to retrieve, and so it was the ancestral warrior holding the gem, and then two teams trying to take it from him, right? And so we just like had 2 teams of 5 just going around and beating Patches with sticks.
I'm sure he did something to deserve it.
It's Patches. So.
It is Patches.
Oh, he listens to this. Hi, Patches.
Oh no. Are you sure he'll listen to ours?
No, he did really well. So, you guys mentioned Book of Heroes. Let's circle back to that. I never got to go because I'm too new, and the one that we were supposed to have last year got canceled because of the pandemic. So tell me a little bit about Book of Heroes and the way that it works.
Oh goodness. So I was like a baby Amp Garter at the time. And I think for like some perspective, if people know Heyo had just gotten his 6th level archer. So it was like a long time ago. And the way they did it, and I don't know if that was the plan for this latest Book of Heroes or not, but it was kind of open world, a little bit like how Crystalline Chronicles can be. And it was teams of 4, I think. And so there were all these teams of 4, and our team was me, Heyo, Calculon, who was playing a monk. So it was like a level 1 monk, a level 1 archer, a level 6 archer, and then I don't remember what it was. Darthaniel, and I don't remember what he was playing. I can't remember. But we were the group, and like basically there were just a bunch of quests that were going on, and your team was collecting points and trying to be the highest scoring team at the end of the event. And I don't even know what you I don't know what you won. Like, there was nothing. It was bragging rights, I guess. There probably was some prize. I don't know. But I can remember being just like really overwhelmed by all the rules. I had no idea about any of the other like classes and what they did. It was a pretty rude awakening to join Amtgard and like try to have your first event be one of these big open world events where everyone's can attack each other and stuff. But it's really funny now because I'm friends with all these people that like they didn't realize it was me back then, and until I've like retold some of these stories. But there was at some point we had to gather these like weird gnome things that we had to like recover from skeleton monsters. So skeleton monsters, you can't shoot them with arrows. So I was completely worthless.
Oh no!
And I kept forgetting who was the skeletons. So I'd shoot them anyway, and they'd be like, "Can you stop shooting?" But it was like all these stick jocks. I can remember Kazan was like the skeleton king. It was like all these people that I was like, oh my god, these are like the most amazing fighters ever. How am I going to fight them? And then I can't even shoot them. Anyway, so we got these gnomes. Somehow our teams were grouping up, and we grouped up with a team that I now know had Mallory on it. I can't remember who else was on her team. But like we were about to get like backstabbed by Puddin's team because it was Puddin and the Snack Packs was his team. And everybody like kills our team. I'm the only one alive. I like loot Mallory for the gnome and run away into the bushes. And I'm just hiding in the bushes. And then everyone goes and has lunch. And I'm sitting hiding in the bushes with this gnome that's really creepy. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then I finally, like, someone realizes, not my boyfriend at the time, Calculon. No. He's standing here. Realizes I haven't like shown up, and they're like, "Oh man, where'd Arco go? I'm still hiding in the bushes with these gnomes." So, someone comes and relieves me of the gnomes, and I go and eat lunch really pissed off. I don't even know what the objective with the gnomes was, but like we had to get all the gnomes together, and then there was like a demon that had to be summoned. I don't know. I was not following it. I was like, why am I hiding in the bushes with these gnomes? So I finally ate lunch and wasn't hangry anymore, and didn't murder Calculon. He's still alive. So that's good. Yeah, and I don't know. We got backstabbed. I got really, really pissed off. At some point, I was like crying in the lunchroom.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, it was bad. And I don't know, Kazan like took it upon himself. He was like, oh shoot, we just like ruined the chances that Arco's ever coming back to Amtgard. I'm gonna take her under my wing. We're gonna like coach them. They did like these 4v4 tournaments, which I've determined is my favorite thing. I really love these. And so they'd set up, a field with out of bounds. They had a couple of reeves, and it was like a round robin 4v4 tournament. And Kazan like coached us through ours. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. None of us did. And we were like the most mismatched team. Like we had two archers. It was not a good fit for a 4v4 team. And I don't know who it was, but someone like comes out it's some bard, and they're like pro, and I'm like, what? And they're like, that means you can't shoot me. And I was like, that can't be real. And one of the reefs goes, oh, it's real. I remember being just so distraught. And then the best moment of that is he's singing his song of protection or whatever. And like, Manheo pulls out his phase arrow. In his first game, first event he ever has a phase arrow at, and he manages to shoot this bard like right in the junk. It was like such poetic justice. Like, I was like, that's right.
So, what I hear from a lot of archers is that the most satisfying things is shooting people in the junk. Can you confirm that?
I don't know that qualifies as my most satisfying thing. It is, I will say, it's very satisfying if you've had someone who has been kind of a jerk in some way, like flaunting their pro status to the poor baby one
right, yes.
level 1 archer, then it feels really good. But yeah, no, usually for me the more satisfying things is when you get that really good like surprise shot that you're waiting for. Like, you're waiting for that moment that shield just kind of like goes down a little too much, and then you get that little slot shot. That's like my favorite thing.
My favorite thing is when you jump and like watching you like jump in midair and shoot them and actually like hit your target. Or like Heo when he like arches
just shooting with his feet.
Like, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Then that's as a viewer, as an onlooker of the mighty archers.
Right.
I know personally, as somebody who uses projectiles in the form of heavy thrown, I just get excited when it hits somebody.
It feels really good. Like,
especially
there's
when,
a sense
like, they're not
go ahead.
expecting it. Like,
Yes.
they didn't even notice that you had something in your hand, so they're just like, and you just come from like beside them, they didn't see you at all, and you just hit them in the side, and they're like, oh. It's just great.
Yeah, my other favorite thing, and you get this as an archer, I feel like you get this more than pretty much anything else. Maybe someone with a spell ball will have it happen for them. It's, you can shoot someone kind of out in the open where like not a lot's going on, and you'll get the dramatic flurby death. And so just circling back to that, like, it happens more often when you're shooting someone out in the open, or you hit someone with a spell ball out in the open. Like, probably you could get it with the heavy throwies. Like, it's so nice that you're like, yes, we're playing a game. I'm glad that you appreciate it. Like, that this is a game and we're playing, you know?
So,
oh my god. Speaking of projectiles, this is another cross gaming experience, but the Suns, so there was this tournament called the Four Horsemen, where it's just like a 4v4. And I think we can play it in Amgard, but the Sons of Terra versus whoever. I think I was on the one of the Seraphim teams at one point at Winter War, and they are like Sons of Terra. They're very good. They're very good fighters. But something they started to do at that time was they had these throwies behind their shields. And they, like, right when the fight started, they would throw these throwies, and I just totally didn't expect it. Every time, like, I knew it was coming. I don't know. It was always hilarious. I think they got me every time. Like a ball at me before we could even fight. And it's just like one of those silly, goofy, like, oh, shoot, but also like, yeah, you got me. Moment.
So at Radiant Valley, Boop would come up with these wacky tournaments that we would do. And one of them is a throwy tournament. And so you have two people line up on opposite sides of the field. And then in the center, there are lined up all these throwies. And so they both charge in and like grab the throwies and try to kill each other. And it's only like thrown shots count, right? Because it's just a throwy tournament. So like people are like rolling on the ground, dodging these throwies and like...
Oh my god.
That sounds amazing.
It's so much fun.
I really want to see Flo do it now.
Flo would shatter his ankle.
And his knees and everything.
So speaking of tournaments and projectiles, what do you think of archery tournaments and how do we bring them back to Winter's Edge?
I have actually never participated in an archery tournament.
Right?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of potential for them to be awesome. I think there was one at one event that I was at, but I didn't get to go participate in it for some reason. I know they can be really fun if people will take the time to like make the targets to shoot at. I think combat archer v archer tournaments are kind of lame.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't really work out to be all that fun for anyone involved, is my experience. But
Never has some really cool targets that like I think they're for their weapon master. I don't know if they still do this, but for a long time Neverwinter's weapon masters included an archery category, which made it so like the stick jacks and everyone who are really serious about fighting with swords we're like, okay, I guess I have to be serious about fighting with bows and arrows. When they would hit the target range, the target moved. So like if it hit, I think the target thing just fell over or something. But it was like a mechanic, like this PVC thing, but it had this mechanical side to it. And just as like an onlooker, it added so much drama to it. I'm here for the drama, like the fun, giggle. But that was cool, and I think maybe, kind of thinking about what those targets are, but I do know with those Neverwinter archery tournaments, sometimes it felt like a drag because they took so long. So maybe like having so then they started to have multiple target ranges. That helped like make it faster. So maybe something like that. I think as long as you could like get a nice tournament in between 30 or 45 minutes, that probably shouldn't be too long and should be good fun. I'd love to see more archery stuff in Neverwinter or in Winter's Edge.
Yeah.
It's something I want to pick up. Something I've been thinking about with COVID, just like distancing. I don't know. And that could be really fun.
See, I just learned how to make arrows at the last symposium. So me and the crew, we all went down, and I think Cabbage, Marduk, Squirrel, and myself all made like at least 2 sets of arrows. That way we could have learners for the park, and we could all learn. And then COVID happened, and we haven't been able to do anything. But eventually, I'm going to pick up archery maybe someday.
That is so awesome! You got to make all those arrows.
Yeah, we made Cabbage and I made 20 each, and then Marduk and Squirrel made 10 each. So
that is bonkers.
Wow, that's awesome.
I feel like with archery, one of the hard things to get into is just like if you buy arrows. I'm thinking of like Gorg or other companies. They're so pricey.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, shoot, if I want to get into this, I'm really gonna have to save my money.
Yeah.
Before, but
it adds up, and then something else is that you're always losing shafts.
Yeah.
Which you can find those on sale and stuff, so it's always good to watch for that. But it's something that has an ongoing expense aspect to it. Like I think right now I'm down to like 5 or 6 arrow shafts.
Yeah.
I need to go buy some more. But again, COVID, so we kind of haven't been doing much. Probably a good time to touch up my collection a little bit, but
heck yeah. Do it during the craft night session.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah.
So we got all our shafts donated from Beefy or Tamlin, who won them at a what?
Apparently that guy's a jerk, right?
Yeah, not Tamlin. Beefy though. He's
Beefy,
cool.
Yeah.
So he won them at a raffle at Kazan's Knighting, and then gave them to me to take to the next event to make into arrows for everyone. So that was pretty nice.
That's awesome.
Can we refer
that is super awesome.
Can we refer to Beefy as Pickle's husband?
Yes,
Perfect.
Beefy is Pickle's husband.
Oh my gosh, Pickles! That is a weird. I hope is Pickles a hobbit?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's a hobbity name.
It's a very hobbity name. So, speaking of hobbits, you're a hobbit, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
are the two of you also hobbits?
Hobbit when I play Scout, Kinder when I play Anti-Paladin.
Okay.
So basically,
Not a hobbit.
Okay.
an honorary Hobbit. Oh, you
I'm
were?
a hobbit at heart, but I'm like way too tall to be a hobbit.
Yeah,
Nice.
you're definitely an elf.
Yeah, I'm definitely like half elf or something.
And honestly, I was kind of assigned Hobbit. Like my third Winter's Edge event was Lord of the Rings themed, and there was a costume contest, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna win this!" So I busted out my Bilbo Baggins cosplay, and had Bilbo in his dragon wings as my little baby Smaug, and we went to feast, and there were like 2 other people that dressed up, so I won the costume contest.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Oh, it's so fun.
Ugh. It
When
was-
whenever we have a new player at Park and they don't know or they haven't decided on like a game name for like if they've come out for like a month,
Mhm.
I dub them or I bestow upon them a Hobbit name, which is usually a household item that is plural. Fork. And if they don't like it, then that's an incentive to like to choose a name for themselves.
Perfect.
figure it out for themselves. Yeah, I guess my name isn't very Hobbit-like.
Yeah, Quan. See, at Radiant Valley, or what I've heard, at least with Old Guard, is that you used to not pick your name; it was always assigned to you.
I've heard that there was a lot of assigned names, but there are still just as many like chosen names.
See, I got mine assigned to me because, once again, I smell like onions. At events, and right now I get the stress sweats, and so I just get really stinky.
I relate. I stress sweat a lot.
Yeah.
So you are not alone.
Yeah, I especially wore a hoodie today so I wouldn't make Quan suffer. Just keep it all in.
This is all for me for later. I'm so sorry.
So back to events and less about my body odor.
Amphgard. Let's
Yeah.
talk about Amphgard, shall we? Were we
Um,
supposed to be talking about arts and sciences or
yes.
something?
Symposium is an event to promote arts and sciences. I know Fiddles, you ran that for a while. Arco, you were supposed to take that over, but pandemic happened. So I went to Symposium, which was my first one. We learned a bunch of things. I learned how to make arrows. I took other classes that I'm blanking on right now. But it was very fun and informative for me. Blisteringly cold, though.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how that event works, what the inspiration behind it was, etc.
Yeah, the inspiration, Valkyrie actually had the idea for it, and she's like, Fiddles, I have an idea. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And we were at a Neverwinter event, and she's like, we gotta go sit down. And so we sat down on this bench, I think, overlooking a lake, and I'm like, this is kind of serious. What's going on? And she's like, I have a vision, an arts and science event. And I'm like, more. And we're like, you know what? This is awesome. Let's go for it. And our vision it really evolved over time. But we wanted to have or create a space for makers in Amphgard to be able to share what they know how to do and to learn new things and be able to like make stuff on site and ask questions and then spread the love of the community through all of the months that revolve around the symposium event. And we always wanted there to be a inter-kingdom collaboration. So we always sought to find artisans who were really kind of at the top of their niche and and we invited them to come in and to teach how to teach their trade. And so for one example is Lady Armstrong. She started to teach these like weekend-long tunic making tracks. And I think before Symposium, I feel like there was a lot of garb that just had bias tape around it. They're like, the keyhole necklines were not in style.
Yeah.
And then we're like, we're going to fix that, make this more medieval and fun. And just like teach people how, because it can be scary. It can be scary to know how to make like thicker keyhole necklines, or intimidating to know how to like add thicker trim to your tunic, or add hand sewing to your tunic, or applique. Like those can be really daunting tasks. And we just really wanted to simplify it and spread kind of the information on how we do things, share tips and tricks. And I think, I don't know, it could just be, or I don't know, I feel like the garb really changed significantly in Winter's Edge, and like, and I think that's because of this event, and just because we had so many crafters come in. And Luna has been sharing how to make pants, how to make cowls, like different types of garb. And then we even had Dame Linden come in one year, and not very many people attended this one class, but I was so inspired by it. She taught how to make a tea tunic out of like a few yards of linen, and she literally ripped the linen to, like, she had someone stand up, and then she's like, okay, I'm gonna make you garb. And then she had this big sheet of linen, and she's like, okay, this is how wide your back is and how long it should be, and she just ripped it. And she's like, okay, now I'm gonna rip the fabric for your gore, for your gussets, and like, and it was like all medieval style way to go about it. And she does a lot of SCA cross gaming, and so that was really cool to get her take on it. I'm like, whoa. So that's, and the symposium later evolved into including fighting classes and leadership classes. So.
Yeah, and if we're talking, that's a good segue into what we're hoping the future of the symposium will be, which is we're really hoping to kind of bring in all the things. So keep the crafting element, and then really bring in the battle gaming element, since that's something that's so strong in Winter's Edge. So we're really hoping that when the next symposium will have a good bit of focusing on how to build battle games, that kind of leadership and planning part of it, and then also some more from, hopefully we can pull on our paragons and whatever, and learn more about how we think about playing in battle games and doing the best we can in playing, all the way to, who knows, we'll see what people want to do and what people have for the classes, but it may be all the way to like how to make the best spell ball from whoever makes that the best.
Right.
And we're hoping to kind of expand the fighting element as well, too. So have it really kind of focus on the three area aspects, right? So battle gaming, just fighting in general, and crafting.
I think it would be cool to have like hand-on instruction from paragons, because we did those paragon classes at Radiant Valley, and so I think it would be really neat to like have the paragons directly instruct you on like the way to use certain skills in certain scenarios in battle games. Yeah,
that actually was part of what inspired me to hope to loop the paragon. I really enjoyed being part of that, the paragon classes you guys held.
Thank you.
Good job, Vidalia.
Yeah, pat yourself on the back. There you go.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed. Like, if there is a silver lining to the whole pandemic, it's that AmpGuard really came together to move all of our like instructional stuff online. So like Radiant Valley has done Paragon Talks, and then we've had Runa did a applique class yesterday that I actually went to. I'm still struggling to learn applique, but it's a launching point. So like various classes and opportunities to learn things have all been like online, so I've just been gobbling up as much information as I can. And then like having hands-on instruction is really great for me, so that's why Symposium was really good, because like if it's just following pictures online or something, it's not as easy for me to actually pick up the skill as it is to have hands-on instructions and people who can see what I'm doing wrong as I'm doing it and correct it.
Absolutely. Like, I think about that paper piecing that you've taught a bunch, Arco, and I'm like, I look at it online, I'm watching videos, I'm like, okay, how do I do this? I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, that's definitely some strange wizardry. Yeah.
It really is. And then I took your class, I'm like, oh, this makes sense now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the pandemic's really been one of these things where a lot of people it kind of in their professional lives outside of AmpGuard, quite a few people who have had the privilege of working from home have, more experience now with Zoom or online video or meetings or teaching in an online setting. Or like, and all of that, and I've definitely seen a huge upgrade in the way that people teach classes or use videos. Like, there's less fussy, like, is my audio on? Can you see me? And I hope that continues beyond the pandemic. I hope that, and I've really been into those online craft meetings and bardic meetings. They've been so much fun of connecting with people all around AmpGuard. And that's what events are to me, and we just can't do them right now. But I've reconnected with so many friends because of it.
See, all of my first bardics have been online. So, I went to the bardic. Was it last night or the night before last? Friday night with you, Fiddles, and it was super fun. I didn't know what bardics were going into it. Like, I knew people sang and whatever. I wasn't expecting the level of like camaraderie that happens at bardics, and so I enjoyed that. I mean, I don't have a point of reference in real life, but I enjoyed that it was able to carry over into like an online atmosphere that was really like fun and together.
I was so pleased about that too. And I was really impressed by the bardic. I mean, the amount of songbirds in AmpGuard is incredible. Always wow me. I'm over here playing my frog. Or my spoons, and other people are like belting their lives. But oh my gosh, when you get to go to an in-person event and everyone's around a campfire and someone's singing and a few people are humming and everyone's swaying, maybe some people dance around the fire, and after, like, everyone applauds, maybe someone shares a story or tells a joke. I mean, it's one of my favorite things about an event are the bardics. Like, I love them. Yeah. After a long day of fighting and being exhausted, sitting around, listening to people, be creative.
Well, sea shanties are really popular right now. So maybe during the pandemic, everyone learns their portion of the sea shanty, and then when we come back, we'll all sing in rounds, and it'll be great.
That is brilliant.
Yes. I hope with that whole trend, people discover AmpGuard and Dagger just because of that.
Yes. Yeah, just one tip, though, for in-person bardics. Don't camp too close to the bardic circle. It will be loud until 4 a.m.
Oh.
Or later.
It can be.
Especially if there's drums involved.
Yeah. Because we definitely camped a little too close to the bardic circle at the last Gathering of the Clans.
Ah, I see.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, yes. They went out for a long time for 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
One of my favorite things, too, about bardics is, like, all these different, especially when you go to an inter-kingdom event, a bunch of different kingdoms, all, like, people within their kingdoms, like, even in Winter's Edge, there's some Winter's Edge specific songs out there.
Oh, really? Yep.
Rituals and, like, in all kingdoms, like, that's across the board, and I think it's always so much fun to hear, like, what other people have written, and yeah,
I know there's some songs that have been referenced before. I'll put the question in the description because I'm looking for either a recording or a transcript of the song that's been mentioned on the podcast before, and I haven't tracked it down yet. So maybe mentioning it again will help find it. It's a song about something caught on fire.
Yes, the old. What's Kazan does it all the time on the guitar.
Old Dun Cow? No.
Yeah, I think so. The Old Dun Cow, isn't that?
Maybe that.
But yeah, it's this.
That sounds right. I do think there is a moment in that song that talks
But yeah,
about fire.
the entire story behind the song is that this pub, the Old Dun Cow, I think is what the pub was called, caught on fire, and there's some.
Oh, McIntyre.
Yes.
Yeah, that's McIntyre. Yeah.
Yes, McIntyre, because everybody shouts McIntyre.
Ah.
Very, very great at naming songs. We are.
Mm.
When there's audience participation embedded into a song, I love that. I don't have to be a beautiful singer. I can scream McIntyre every day.
Yeah, as long as it's something that I'm capable of doing as far as audience participation, I will totally, like if it's stomping, that's really good too. I can stomp. Clapping. I got that one.
But like as somebody who grew up learning music through school, whenever people start getting off on clapping, I want to strangle the entire crowd.
Mm.
Oh.
As a former marching band kid, yep, exactly.
Every time. Because there's always, like...
I'm glad you both have not strangled me. I definitely am not in tune. I have heart.
like for me, like, sure, be that one person that wants to clap on like 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 4 with everybody else, but don't clap on the ands unless you're gonna be doing 8th notes. Like, please, you're killing me. Like, please.
I feel it.
Yes.
Oh my word.
And but it doesn't just have to be songs and musical instruments. Like Arco, you do poem recitals.
I've totally done part of Dante's Inferno in Italian.
Nice.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. And like Hellions makes me cry every time he like goes and does some story performance. Belle does these puppet shows, which are hilarious.
Yeah.
So
Geralder and I have duetted on the trumpet.
Oh, nice.
I missed that.
Yep. A lot of people did. It was a pretty small bardic, but we were
that needs recreated.
Oh no.
I need to witness that.
Oh no.
I love it.
I'm trying to think what I could do for a bardic, but performance just isn't my thing, I think. I could do interpretive dance.
Yes. Please.
Oh, yes. Please.
Yes.
Please.
That's also one of my favorite things.
100% here for it.
I love stories. There was this one guy that told this story that was actually just a very long joke, and I can't remember it at all, but it was amazing. And I want to know it because, like, I'm a raft guide professionally, and that would be amazing to just take up the entire bus ride to our put-in. But I can't remember anything about it, except for it ends with it being about a jack-o'-lantern, and that's it. That's all that I can remember.
Someone please write a story that ends in a jack-o'-lantern.
So, Fiddles, I'm assuming that you didn't get your sword belt for your bardics.
No, Serpent Belt.
Yes.
Not sword.
Oh,
Serpent.
oops. Serpent Belt.
They both start with
S.
S.
My bad. Serpent Belt.
We were all like, oh. You can get a sword belt for bardic?
Serpent Belt.
Who knew rap battles could be sword belt worthy?
Yeah, we'll do competitive rap battle tournaments. That counts. It's a tournament. Okay. That's what I've joked about wanting to do for, if I ever get knighted, like instead of having a buffeting line, like we just have a roast.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Anyway, so I assume you didn't get your Serpent Belt for your bardics. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I am I have my masterhood in garbing. So I've just made a bunch of garb.
Mhm.
I'm super. I've been sewing since I was in high school. I was just inspired by my grandma. I'm like, I'm gonna make my own clothes and match my best friend in high school and be that person.
Nice.
And then I started to like make some garb when I first started foam fighting. And then when I transitioned into AmpGuard, I started to enter my stuff into competitions, and that's where I learned quite a bit of stuff. I'm like, oh, I should finish my seams. I see what the rationale is, that my garb will stay together longer if I finish my seams. Ooh. And then I learned all these different ways to do seams. I finally landed on one that I like. I like to do a French seam and then like a stabilizing stitch on top. So I just kind of, I would reach out. So I reached out to Lady Armstrong and Lyndon, and I kind of read through their tutorials. I'm like, how do I do applique? And I love that there are videos and that there's craft chats and nights where people can openly ask questions. Like a couple weeks ago, I think it was Avi who was working on applique, or Geralder. I don't remember who.
I think it was Geralder because he was making the belt favor for exchange.
Yes, yes, and he had applique questions, and he was just directly asking us in the chat, which helped because when I was learning applique, I didn't have that luxury. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this. And I don't know, I guess I didn't know how to read the directions on the back of Heat and Bond. I should read the directions that come with the Heat and Bond. But I don't know, I just didn't do that. And I assumed that I meticulously peeled off the paper, so I just had this flimsy piece of plastic, and then I pinned that flimsy piece of plastic to my fabric.
Oh no.
And then I like put that onto some other fabric. It was a hot mess. I don't know why. So I went from there, and I continued entering into competitions and talking with people, and I just fell in love with garb, and I started to find my own little niche. So I started to do applique work with like paint, like kind of thread painting, embroidery on top, like machine style free stitching. That was kind of my journey. I mean, there's a lot of things in between, but
nice.
I love that there's so many more resources out there now, and like things like the symposium and classes, because learning new skills can be really intimidating, and especially if you just don't know what you're doing at all and you mess up a bunch, which messing up is great. That's a huge learning thing, but it also can be one of those things that's really discouraging.
It feels bad.
It feels really bad. Yeah, and I think that's also something important with arts and science competitions that judges really need to remember, and this is how I coach my judges when I run a competition, is what are the goals of the competition? Well, the goals of a competition is so the community can A, see what's being produced, see what's being made, and be inspired, and B, the individual entrants, that you can help guide them and help kind of help them with personal growth in their craft. And so instead of like putting someone down in negative comments, kind of going to their level, being like, hey, this is this is a great tunic, or like, I'm excited to see, there's so much love put into this. I recommend for future tunics that you learn that you try out these seams and, and try to finish your seams or something. Try to build people up. Instead of putting them down. That's the biggest thing.
That's one of the things that I've really also enjoyed about the pandemic, if we're back to silver linings, is all of these digital ANS tournaments. I got to judge one at the kingdom level, and instead of trying to go through like 50 entries and judge them all in like a 4-hour window or something, I got to spend like 3 days judging all of them and spend like enough time to write some paragraphs of feedback for each contestant. And I feel like that's what I was really craving when I was entering these tournaments in in-person events, was this like constructive feedback that I could use to improve. And so I wonder how we could translate that better when we reopen again.
Yeah, I think part of it is on the event runner, kind of anticipating how large the tournament's going to be and how many judges are needed. So when I ran Keep Arts and Science at the 2019 event, that's a big Interkingdom event. And so I had specific judges lined up for specific categories. So that all the judges didn't need to judge every single item. They could just focus on their, on garb, or they could just focus on artwork. And that gave them time to be able to spend the time that was really needed for their items. I mean, it did mean that I needed a lot of judges. When I ran a competition at Ragnarok, I think I had 20 judges. But, I mean, it's a big event, and I was able to find them, and yeah, I think it just made it so that it was a better time for everyone that way.
Yeah.
It can be just really frustrating as a judge to feel like you don't have enough time.
It also it feels super frustrating as a judge because you sacrifice your entire day to judging. You don't actually get to participate in most of the event. So I feel like having more judges means spending less time judging, and then you're actually get to participate in battle games or whatever else it is you want to do.
Yeah.
Well, a different way to phrase that is I started to guest judge at different kingdoms around where I'm living now, and I found it as I get to judge.
Yes.
It's not like I'm sacrificing and I think that's a mindset. I think if you're going into judging feeling like you're not able to have fun elsewhere, maybe you shouldn't be judging that event.
Right. Well,
yeah, maybe you need a break.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of have been using this kind of guest judging. I've made so many friends with fellow judges. I've met and just spending time with people. And I love to, when I judge, I love to have someone who is shadowing me. And so we'll just judge everything together. And then that person, I'll feel confident by the end, could just go out into the world and judge the next big kingdom thing on their own. And they have the confidence of it too. So whatever you can do to build friendships and make it fun.
Right. See, what I've been hearing from judges who have judged in the past is either that kind of attitude, or they feel like they don't get any sort of gratitude or acknowledgement for being a judge, because so many people, when they enter these tournaments, they take that feedback that's given to them and they see it as a personal attack or personal criticism rather than an opportunity for growth. And so you hear a lot of complaints about the judges. So it feels like people are either putting in their personal time to help and for you to grow, and then people don't have any sort of gratitude for that. How do you think we change that mentality?
Well, something that I've been doing, I made machine embroidered belt favors that said ANS judge for all of my judges at Ragnarok, and I was 20 belt favors. And so that was just a thank you to them. At Keep, I like made little goodie bags and little ceramic acorns for my judges. And I think it's also one of those. And but that being said, as a competition runner, you absolutely like not everyone has luxury to make stuff for their judges, right?
Right.
Just practicality. But I think being really open with your judges and trying to build community with them and build morale, like maybe you bring some cookies or like have, okay, judges, let's take a break and have a powwow and just share some stories for a bit and then get back to it. Or ways to facilitate the experience so that it is a fun experience. I've also kind of at post competition, like Q&A. So like let's say it's a really big competition, there's lots of entries and judges just don't have the time to write comments.
Right.
Sometimes that happens, and when that does happen, I like to schedule an hour Q&A with judges session. But it does have strict kind of guidelines, like there's, you know, while you can kind of express questions or like I don't understand why my, you know, item was judged this way, it's a we like kind of keeping everything positive, or just not being, just kind of keeping more of an upbeat Q&A session at the end where entrants can just speak with judges, and I feel like that collaboration is really nice. And I've seen judges who are really, really excited about some entries talk to the entrants and be like, oh my gosh, here's this opportunity and this opportunity and this opportunity. Have you thought about like checking out this person? And they've been able to create new friendships that way. So that could help.
I think something else, and I'm saying this as someone who basically never does anything at a park because I live too far away from parks to really have a home park per se. I think it's something that can be really helpful if we have a little bit more of an ANS tourney culture park level on up. Right. Because right now it's something that I think is lacking a little bit in Winter's Edge. And so your first tournament experience is often at the Kingdom level, which has certain expectations of quality attached to it that is maybe not the place that's best for that first time experience for everyone.
Shout out to Sylvan Glade and Ever Living Woods for having park level tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's not happening. And it's been great seeing them happening digitally. I think that's been such a huge thing. But yeah, I think it's something where it's a little less intimidating to enter on a smaller stage, and you can learn more at that stage, and you're maybe already have a relationship with that judge, if that makes sense. And then it's something where it's everyone has to buy into the idea that this is about growth and being constructive. And so anytime I talk to someone who's wondering whether or not they should enter, I always ask them if they're going to be able to handle the judge comments as constructive criticism. Because it's something you need to know about yourself, and you really shouldn't enter something if you're going to be heartbroken to hear anything negative about it.
Right.
As weird as that sounds, it's something where you kind of have to know yourself too. And it's just a mindset. It's just a learning process, and it's something that I think kind of going up the levels, park level on up, can really, really help.
I'm a huge fan of the 3 and under competitions or 5 and under competitions, whether it's art and science or fighting related. I think because sometimes, especially when getting into a new craft or a new thing, it's really overwhelming, and kind of like being at the same level or similar level to everyone else is very helpful and encouraging. Also, the judges know where everyone's at, and
So, I went to art school, and I feel like it's a learning process for every artist because so much of the creative process is like pouring yourself into a piece, and like what motivates your creativity is often like deeply rooted in who you are as a person. And so learning to set that aside and then accept critique is really hard. Like that entire process is something that is learned. Like it's not inherent. No one takes criticism well the first time they get it, especially about something so intimate as your creative process. So if you are concerned about like how you might handle criticism, but you still want to improve, like that's a hurdle that you're gonna have to get over basically. And it takes time and practice. And one of the things that Obscura was saying is she's going to have to host a class at Midrain on this exact topic, actually, is that like you take that criticism and if you don't even have to read those cards or whatever at the event site, because so many times like you read them and then you have to be around other people and have that vulnerable moment like at an event site. And that's maybe not the time that's best for you to receive criticism, you know? Yeah. So like go home and read them and process them before like you know, use that to make judgments.
Yeah. Something Fiddles and I have done actually. So I don't know if last symposium I entered this project that I've been working on for like 3 years, a really huge paper-pieced quilt. And I knew I was not going to be able to receive criticisms on that very well.
Yeah.
Especially in the time. And so I actually had Fiddles read all of my cards on that, like all the judge sheets before she gave them to me, if that makes any sense. So having a filter where if you have someone you trust that's a mentor for you, sometimes you can have them kind of read through things first and know whether or not the criticisms are actually constructive, because that's something that can happen too. You know, sometimes judges are learning or not learning or whatever, you know. Sometimes the judges aren't always great, and sometimes they're amazing. And so, you know, having someone else look through it and say, okay, these comments aren't very constructive, you shouldn't read them. Can be really helpful.
This is also something that I think is really important in building a write-up. I have whenever I run a competition, I have a write-up template that I encourage entrants to fill out. And part of it, and I think if there's specific kinds of criticism that you're looking for, like I'm really interested in growing my skills, like learning how to do different themes. What are your, what's your feedback, or what do you think? Or I just learned how to applique. What are some of your suggestions on how I can make my stitches look nicer, or whatever? I think asking, like being really upfront in your write-up on the types of criticism that, or critiques that you want from judges is super helpful, not only for you as an individual, but also for the judges, helps guide them. Something that I've also, one of my friends, whose name is Dumb, excuse my language, Sir Testicles, or Al, as I call him, he taught garage armoring at Symposium last year. But he is very niche craft. Like, he makes amazing, beautiful armor, like plate armor. And he has a whole setup in his garage. Like, it is his thing. He also makes gorgeous swords and, like, forges stuff. Because he's so niche, there are very few people that do what he does. So at the end of his write-ups, and he usually has really long write-ups, at the end of his write-ups, he includes questions like what things to consider, the beveling, the edges, or like he just kind of makes a list of things, and then like what, you know, and those are guiding things that he would like the judges kind of to like really hone in on. And I think that's very helpful as well. And as a judge, you can decide, okay, cool, I'm also going to judge all this other stuff you didn't mention, guy. But I think just kind of knowing the kinds of criticisms that someone's looking for, that can help guide critique.
So I actually messaged you before my first Dragon Master, which was at the last symposium, and you sent me your write-up guideline and then like 3 other write-up guidelines. And so I was able to like Frankenstein from that like some write-ups that I really liked, because I don't know if you know this, but my first ANS that was outside of Radiant Valley was from Ever Living Woods, and I didn't have a write-up for it because I didn't know that you were supposed to. And so I came down and I just got crucified for not having a write-up. And so
no.
Like, it was so bad my park would tease me for the next few months about like like I would have given this a 5, but your write-up was terrible. So I really like took that criticism to heart and worked on like improving and learning how to make a write-up. And then one of the judges who had judged my art at Ever Living Woods eventually saw it again when I was competing online and messaged me and was like, write-up comeback of the century, like da da da.
Bravo.
Yeah, so thank you for helping me learn how to do a write-up.
You're welcome. Yeah, I find them really helpful too. Like I'll have little templates. Like when I enter a garb piece, I kind of use this kind of write up. When I enter an art piece, I use this, and it helps me remember. Like, oh yeah, I should go and I should go tie all my threads and clip them down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I'll just like kind of have that embedded. I'm like, okay, I need to iron stuff. Yeah, it helps. Also, I also use it to like help me finish an item.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me personally, write-ups are my least favorite part of arts and science competitions because I hate talking about myself so much. And like when I'm making something, I don't think about what I'm doing. I just kind of do it. So when I then have to go back and do a write-up about it, I've forgotten everything that I've done.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's horrendous. It happens every time, which is why I don't enter a lot of my garb stuff, because I will go into this horrendous sewing frenzy that I'm not even a real person anymore, and I'll just be at a machine for 12 hours straight and just work it and get it done, and then I hate myself the next day, and I'm like, it's done. I'm not going to look at it ever again. I'm going to wear it, but I'm not going to touch it. And then
I put projects in timeout as well.
See, like, I feel like that's so much of my creative process too, is I just like go into a fugue state for like 12 hours, and like when I come out, there's art. So like, doing a write-up can be challenging, but like it doesn't have to be in the moment. You can put it aside and then come back and remember, like, these were the design elements and these were my reasonings behind them, and da 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 da. It's just a learning process.
And it can feel like a lot to write if you're handwriting it every time and starting from scratch every time. So I highly recommend having some kind of little template, like on Microsoft Word or Google Docs or something, that you can just fill in the blanks for.
Yeah.
That makes it much less stressful, I think, for me, and I can.
Yeah, I think most of the times I do it like right at the last minute, and I'm like, I think I have Sir Loric's template somewhere around here, and I'm like, aha, there we go.
I
That'll
use Sir
work.
Loric's template as well. And I'm a big fan of the bullet point list. Like, I don't usually write like paragraphs about SWAT.
Oh yeah, no, I
bullet
can't.
points. It is all bullet points. That's it. Bullet points.
Yeah.
Well, it's easier on you, but it's also easier on the judges because it's like look through the important stuff.
Yeah.
See, when I entered in the physical A&S competitions that we had in person, I would use the bullet point write-up. But when we were doing the digital ones, I'll use the paragraph one because the judges have more time to like process all the
That
entries.
makes sense.
See, for me, I'm like,
And they have less, like, you can't touch the piece.
Yeah.
You can't, you know, like, you can't see other angles of it if you didn't submit a picture of the angle they want to see. You know, they're just stuck with what they have. And so a longer write-up makes way more sense in a digital format.
Something that I've also done in the past is if there's a niche thing, like skill, that I'm not sure if the judges, like, probably most likely people haven't made Indo-Islamic handmade paper before, right? And so, like, I have, right, so it's like something super neat. So I have just a tutorial or like a handout on the process of making Indo-Islamic paper. And then I'll use that as like an appendix or an attachment that I'll just stick to the end of my write-up. And that would go whenever I do a scroll on that paper. I would just also add, like, I made this paper, I burnished it, and this is what that means and why. And then I don't have to type that up every time. I just have it. So yeah, whether that's chainmail or like your specific process on wood carving or whatever, I think it's great to just have a little tutorial attachment if you feel like that's something you do for a long time. Yeah. Can make it less overwhelming.
I think for a couple of the things that I have submitted, I've submitted some writing things. I've submitted a couple of short stories.
Your
and
poetry.
A poem. Yeah. Who would have known that the poem that I wrote when I was feeling like absolute trash and needed to inspire myself would have gotten such a high score?
They won best of the best at Radiant Valley locally, and then second place in the Kingdom tournament overall.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
But like for a write-up for that, I was like, I don't know. I don't want to go into all this background about how I felt like absolute trash and was just miserable and horribly, horribly depressed and was like, you know what? I just woke up at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep because my brain won't shut up. So here's a poem. F it. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, how do you put that into a write-up without making everybody feel sorry for you? Because that's like one of my least favorite things is feeling like I'm being pitied. But that's a personal thing that I'm working on. So I'm just like,
I think you have to take whatever struggles you're going through with your art, be it the learning process of like learning how to applique, because I can't do that, and like making it into a positive and optimistic experience. It's kind of what Fiddles was pointing out with judging. Like, you shouldn't come at it from the mentality of like making a sacrifice. So instead of like coming at it from like a outlook of pity, or like I'm going to be pitied by talking about like my sadness or whatever, you can talk about that sadness in a positive way. Like, talk about it as a font of inspiration rather than a challenge that you've overcome.
Yeah.
Or even, so something I'm thinking about, I haven't read this poem, but it sounds like it's probably really amazing. It can be something, you know, you are not the only one who's experienced horrible depression, and it can be something that helps someone else too, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, potentially that's part of what judges could see in it, is that this is real and amazing and like quite a feeling that, you know, other people experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think the scariest part about putting that out there is that it was on a public group for a digital competition, which is like extra scary. Like, I don't want everybody to know about this, but here, have it anyways.
Yeah. And that's something to think about too, as a judge, is that entering in these competitions is a really brave thing.
Yes.
It's a really brave thing. And it's something that takes a whole lot of guts to do it. And you're really putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. And like you said, like, no criticism is going to feel good. And so, you know, trying to remember that as a judge and trying to remember competitions you've entered in and things you've felt is something really important.
Some criticism that I got in one of my first competitions I had entered at Neverwinter, and I think a Neverwinter Dragon Master. I made this red overcoat thing, and one of the only comments I got from one of the judges was, there was a cockroach, a dead coat in the pocket of your coat. I accepted your full point. And I was so mad. I don't know. I tell that story to my judges too. I'm like, okay, there's like something. Come on.
Jeez, Fiddles, you probably should have worked on your presentation there and known to clean the cockroach out of that pocket.
Yeah, geez. Did you even like work on the cockroach's seams or anything? Jeez.
No.
My face hurts from laughing.
You have to iron the cockroach first, Fiddles.
I do. I know. I was out of protein. I was saving it for later.
You should make a red cloak with a little applique cockroach on the pocket.
or get Arco to make I don't know how to pronounce it.
An amigurumi cockroach.
Yes, a little.
In collaboration, Fiddles.
And put it in everything you submit from now on. Like, it just goes in there, and they're like, "What is?"
Goes with any garb piece.
If the judge finds it, then they get a check mark on them. They can be a judge.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm dead, y'all.
This
is brilliant. I love it.
Does that segue us into funny Amtgard stories?
Yes, that's the perfect segue for funny Amtgard stories. So each of you, let's hear them. Your silliest Amtgard stories.
So I could probably start, like, this one is fairly widely known. It has nothing to do with me, but my absolute favorite battle game of all time is cows versus chickens at, I don't even remember what, like, it's that event site where there's like the big field in the middle, the little cabins.
Fall Creek Falls, I think.
Yes, Fall Creek Falls. It was like, I don't know, my first event there, and like, it was the most ridiculous battle game I've ever participated in. It was amazing. They literally, the game runners just pulled out anything that they had as a prop for anything. There were like stuffed animals, there were flags, like there was cones, and they just like lined them up in the middle, and they said, okay, y'all, the goal is to go fill your bucket with these random items. It's cows versus chickens, and we had Thundercluck was there.
Yep.
And like they just kept making kind of random rules and throwing them at us as we were going, and it just got progressively more ridiculous. So at some point they were like, cows, you have to moo if you're carrying an item. Chickens, you gotta cluck. And so everyone is wandering around the field clucking and mooing, and there's just so many items. There's not a single person on the field who did not retrieve an item and take it back to base. And like, I don't know, the Rees were just like counting them and then throwing them back in the middle. It was like one of the least like technical battle games I've ever participated in, but also one of the most ridiculous. Those are my favorite. Like, no question. Anytime where Amtgard looks at itself and says, we're like grown-ass adults and we're hitting each other with foam swords, we need to remember that. Slaps it on the game. I'm here for it.
Good. Yeah. That was a fun one to watch. That was right after I'd been injured, so I got to watch that from the sidelines and reeve a little bit over that. And it was.
I was like wearing a chicken mask. Like I don't. Like, people were doing the chicken dance. Like. It was amazing.
That sounds really fun. It also reminds me of the Thundercluck Rebellion, which was the other place that I saw you on the battlefield. And you kept pinning me the entire time.
Take it as a compliment. It means I had to take you off the field.
I love being surprised at an event. Like when something just totally takes me off guard. Like countless times in Winter's Edge right before court, someone assassinates or tries to kill the monarch. But I went to MAME, which is the Minnesota Amtgard May event, and it was the year of Olympiad. I think Polaris was running it, but during court they had M. Hogg was in full garb with like this rose on his chest, or no, he was in this like fancy white shirt, and then these people behind him, like I don't know, probably 8 or 10 people in full garb with roses and like big rose applique banners, and then he like made this big, and like they went through the aisle and they made this big announcement. And there was this huge role play thing, and they're like, I think it was their mid-reign, and they were doing like role play declarations for their next monarchy, like you should vote for me, and my reign will be war of roses. And this person took this glass of wine, and they have this skit prepared, and like just tossed this whole red wine all over his fancy.
Oh my god!
Oh no!
And like the amount of garb for him just trying to do this right. I was amazed. And then right after that skit, another person rolls up in garb and like has like a bunch of people behind him with banners for the Airbender theme reign that he was proposing, and did a whole skit and drama. And I'm like, my jaw just dropped to the ground. I'm like, whoa, the commitment. They don't even know if they can run this reign. And they made all this stuff and the drama. Like, moments like that, I love. Yeah.
So one more silly story on this. I was the regent defender for Fiddles for one of her regent reigns. And so someone was coming to assassinate people or whatever, and I like protected Fiddles and all this stuff, and then like Fiddles had this like plate of like, I don't know, grilled zucchini or something that was extra, and Cade had brought it out of the kitchen and brought it to her, and like she was like, "I'm too full. Here you go, Arco." And like I start eating it, and then Cade goes, "Oh my god, he'd written poison on the bottom of the plate."
Yeah.
I accidentally rescued her again. Hands down the best Regent's defender, totally on accident the whole time.
So I am the opposite. So Cabbage is my fiance, and he's king currently, and I helped get him assassinated. So Z is our resident assassin, and during the pandemic, you know, we've been having all of these online events, and our last mid-reign, Geralder is champion, and so he's, you know, defending Cabbage online and stuff. And Geralder's like, the great thing about online events is that we don't have to worry about assassinations. And meanwhile, Z is hiding underneath my desk because I've snuck her into the house for the express purpose of assassinating King Cabbage. And so she's hiding under my desk the entire court. And then when Z gets called up to the front of the court, right, we release Z from the desk, and then she runs in and stabs Cabbage in the back and assassinates him while he's talking about like all of the good things that Z has done to earn this award.
I love it. Oh my god.
And Arco, your story reminded me of, I don't even remember what the event was, but I remember coming upon a game that was happening. I think the game was Goblin Ball or one of the other balls. One of the ones where you need big, stupid weapons, because I just delivered Walbaron his axe that I made him.
Orc Ball?
Yes!
Orc Ball. Yes. And I remember coming upon the scene because I was like, I want to see my weapon in action because this is stupid. I made a stupid axe. Oh, and I've been commissioned to make another stupid axe. I'm really excited. Yes, it's a project that I'm going to be starting soon. But anyways, I come upon it, and the Reeve is just randomly shouting things like, if you are a barbarian, you now must speak in rhyme or something. Or they're like, and then at one point, I think what's said is that you have to be dancing if you are going to be on field. And then they just start doing the worm. And like, I just see Teflon and Walbaron just start dropping and doing the worm across the field. And I'm like, what is happening?
I feel like that might have been the same event with the chickens, but maybe it happened. I don't know. I'm sure it's happened multiple times. But yes, I remember like everything turning into a dance battle all of a sudden. It's like, what just happened?
And I was like, there was an objective. There was like a rock that you're supposed to be moving, right? Like, and then all of a sudden they just drop down dancing, and there's somebody breakdancing and trying to spin on their head in the middle of this grassy field, and you're like, what are you doing? This is crazy. And then they're like, okay, no, we need to switch the rules because this isn't moving the game along. All right, new rule. And I'm like, what? Are we just pulling things out of a hat? Or are you just making it up as you go?
Literally, that's the game.
Oh, yes. It was great. It was so great.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on and for sharing your silly stories, for giving us all sorts of insights into ANS and to running ANS events and to role-playing in the game. All of that was super useful. If there's any closing statements you guys have, you can go ahead and, you know.
Yeah. Or, like, do you have anybody else that you'd like to hear? What are we? We're WAP?
WAP or VAC, either one.
We don't know yet. We're trying.
So the male podcast is Warlords and Kingdoms, or WAC, right? And so we either want to be WAP, which is a play off of the popular Cardi B song right now, but it would be women and Amtgard people, or we have Vidalia and Quan. So we haven't decided yet.
We're still working on it. But who?
I like them both.
Thank you. Who are some non-male players that you'd like to hear us listen to and like to see us talk to?
Yeah.
feel like Mallory could be a good one. And then Lexi could be really interesting.
We're gonna surprise Knight. Not Knight.
We're trying to get Lexi on, and we've decided that we're just going to have her over for snacks or something, and then surprise, it's a podcast.
Make more.
I love it. Yeah, I'd love to hear from her.
I always love hearing from Lyndon and Lady Armstrong, but I know I'm not in Winter's Edge, so.
I mean, we've had people from out of Kingdom.
I think we've got Kiara coming up here. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
I've seen the trends of like spelling women WOMXN, and that's kind of the more inclusive way to say it. That might be if you go with the women and people. That could be women. Yeah.
Well, thanks. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube or Spotify to get notified about new episodes. And make sure to follow us on Facebook for announcements and more.